Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Deanna Minnick, and today I'm going to talk with you about nutritional supplements and herbs for chronic disease risk. I do think that in our modern society that we are requiring more use of dietary supplements for various reasons. We're up against so many different reasons in order to bring them in. So in this first section, what I'd like to do is give you an introduction as to why we need more dietary supplements in medical practice. So first and foremost, because each of us have our own individual biochemistry, we may have different genes. And those genes may lead to different inadequacies or inefficiencies that require us to have additional nutrients. And many times we can't get those nutrients from the diet alone. And therefore we need to bring them in through a supplement that is very targeted to our particular genetics. Another reason to have dietary supplements is because throughout the lifespan, whether we're a man or a woman, or even a child or somebody who's in their older decades of life, 70s, 80s, 90s, we may have different nutrient needs. And again, maybe we're not eating as much, but we need more nutrient density. And as a result, one of the ways to get those nutrients is to bring in more in the way of dietary supplements. Our food supply is right now just very much in jeopardy. We have many different environmental contaminants. The soil is depleted of minerals and different nutrients. And so we don't quite have the same quality of food that we used to even 100 years ago. And because of this, we may need to bring in dietary supplements to fortify what we're already getting in food, even if we're making really good choices. We're buying organic, we're buying grass-fed meats, we're buying the rainbow of different whole foods, but still we may need just an additional amount of nutrients that we could not get from our food alone. Many people are under stress. They're under constant assault from their daily life. They might be sedentary, they might already have symptoms. They just may not feel their optimum self. And so having a dietary supplement, I have seen in clinical practice, has helped people tremendously to really get to the next level of their health. Because again, I do think of food first. We really need to start there. But for some people, they need additional nutrients. And I've also found clinically that when people have dietary supplements, they can be more compliant. So they may not be able to change their diet, but they can surely take a protein powder every day, or they can take a fish oil every day. That's something they can do, and that can help them to feel better. So yes, indeed, I think that there are several reasons why it's necessary to supplement the diet. Let's look at some of the different chronic diseases that are on the rise. Things like heart disease, cancers of various types, chronic respiratory diseases, even metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes, which is truly a lifestyle-induced disease. And then we have even type 3 diabetes, or what we've been thinking of as Alzheimer's disease, cognitive impairment. And over time, how cognition, learning, memory starts to fade. Many of these different chronic diseases that are increasing in incidence is really, it's really important to be looking at how the different nutrients can be targeted to help prevent and also treat these diseases. So this is showing how, of all of the different chronic diseases, how certain nutrients and even some vitamins might be helpful in those particular disease states. Now, I like this idea of, even if we don't have a chronic disease, it would be important to be thinking of a multivitamin mineral as good insurance, don't you think? To really have something on a daily basis that we take in that ensures that whatever stresses we have, that we can accommodate. So this is a quote from Dr. Bruce Ames and a research group published in 2007. And what the quote says is, "Of course, everyone would agree that all persons should be encouraged to eat a good diet, but we are far from achieving this goal. especially among the poor. In most cases, a simple way to improve micronutrient status is to take a multivitamin mineral. At a minimum, taking a multivitamin mineral is good insurance. And a multivitamin mineral is not very expensive, and yet it can help people who do not have the financial resources to buy a lot of nutrient-dense foods on an ongoing basis. So why is there such a debate? Why doesn't everybody take dietary supplements? Why is it such an issue? Well, if you look at the scientific research, there are some mixed results. And the mixed results may be in part because we're expecting out of a diverse, heterogeneous population to have an override of all of the dysfunctional signals just with a simple supplement. And I don't think that that's realistic. I don't think that we can prevent a tsunami of different dysfunctional signals, especially when we're not making any changes in that direction. I do think that it can help to fill some gaps, but if we're looking at long-term disease prevention, I think we need more. So in a lot of these studies, they might already be looking at diseased populations that need even more to overturn a lot of those dysfunctional signals. So I think that the public has been very skeptical about dietary supplements. But really and truly, I think it's in part because the science, the study designs, have been very flawed. We're not able to look at the genes of those people. We're not looking at compliance, how regular they're taking that. What are they having as their diet? Are they exercising? Are they stressed? So there are many different variables to consider. Some people think that food is enough. Why do I need a supplement? I'm just going to create expensive urine. It's just going to go right through me. But as I just spoke to before, our food supply is not the high quality that it used to be. The soils, again, are depleted. We have a lot of pollution. We have heavy metals. We have plastics. We have so many different contaminants, in addition to things like pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides. So even if we make those attempts to eat healthy, we can't always do that all the time. We need more. And then still others believe that dietary supplements are not safe or that they're not well regulated. And in my experience, working in a dietary supplement industry, what I would tell you is that I believe they're one of the most well-regulated industries. Looking at things like third-party analyses for microorganisms, for heavy metals, for contaminants, can be very pure, and you know exactly what you're getting in a good quality dietary supplement. And if you're making good choices about who you're buying dietary supplements from, then it's not necessarily a problem. So quality is something to always be looking for, no matter what you're purchasing. The other reason for the conflicting research is because nutrients don't work the same way each time in every person. They don't always respond in a line, so it's not always that more is better. Sometimes they respond in a bell-shaped curve. So too little is not good, but we need the right amount and not too much either. And helping people to find that optimal amount is truly the essence of nutritional medicine. So this is a quote in an article from 2008 that says, "The dose response of nutrients is not linear. At low concentrations, deficiencies may be observed. Following a physiological dose range, which can be relatively narrow, a further increase of the dose may lead to adverse effects." So we have to know what I call the Goldilocks principle. Not too little, not too much, just right. And for every person, that may be a little bit different, which is why we may see the disparate results in research. I do like to bring food together with supplements. Quite honestly, I believe that that is a synergistic approach. Food provides the baseline, the foundation of nutrients that we take in, and then the supplements can be very targeted to what we need specifically to override any kind of cell signaling pathways. And that's why I do focus on supplements that have been properly formulated, looking at how close we can move those supplements to how those different nutrients occur in foods. But having foods together with supplements, I do think, is a wonderful way to help somebody to buffer against nutrient gaps. So as I was mentioning before, quality is essential to consider. Let me just talk with you about some of the potential things that you want to be asking of your dietary supplement manufacturer, things that you need to be looking for on the label. First and foremost, many dietary supplements may have sugar. Sugar is pervasive, it's everywhere. And sugar comes in many forms too. So even though you may see on the label sugar, it could also come as the name of an artificial sweetener or the name of any number of different starches that can be very sweet. So be reading the label for sugars. I also look for dyes, colorings, flavoring additives. And some of these flavoring additives are high in even MSG or even toxic substances that create those artificial dyes. So be reading the labels for the presence of those in the other ingredients. What about endocrine disruptors? I've been mentioning toxins, toxicants, and how we have these things in our environment that are really changing our hormone function. And they're doing that because they look like hormones, but they're toxic. They're called endocrine disruptors. These are things like parabens and phthalates, things that change the function of our endocrine system and our hormone levels. So be looking for things like that on the label. You want to be sure that whoever you get your dietary supplements from, that they're looking for microorganisms, that they're actually testing lot to lot, batch to batch, whether or not there's any kind of overgrowth of microorganisms. Or what about fungus? Or what about heavy metals? And then looking at the quality of that formulation. There are many different companies that have different ways that they put together different supplements. And so ask of your dietary supplement company and your supplier, how do they put that together? What's the science behind it? What's the quality? What's the manufacturing process? Ask them those questions and be reading the labels much like you would a food label. So when we look at different nutrients, there is a science of how everything works together. Certain vitamins work together very well, and other vitamins don't work together very well at all. Sometimes we need to be looking at minerals and vitamins. And so for certain people, if I'm thinking about when we might need a supplement, and this is playing into the art of formulation, looking at, for somebody who drinks perhaps higher levels of alcohol, how we may need certain nutrients. And so again, tapping into somebody's lifestyle and then matching that with a formulation that would be best suited for that individual's personalized needs. Similar with smoking, looking at decreased intakes of things like antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene. And if we're eating a high plant-based diet, which I hope most of us are, we can have a lot of fiber. And some of that fiber can bind some of the nutrients in the food itself. So having a separate formulation or a supplement can be helpful for providing those nutrients that we may not be absorbing outright. Now, another population to be thinking about with dietary supplements is for all of those patients that are on medications, whether they're on antihypertensives, blood clotting agents, all the different statins. There's so many different medications and the risk that they pose for that individual in lowering the amount of nutrients in the body. One thing that I think of just right now is oral contraceptive use, the reduced amounts of B vitamins, particularly vitamin B6. And vitamin B6 is used throughout the body for so many different functions and different enzymes. So even neurotransmitter health, looking at methylation. Vitamin B6 is used for the energy metabolism, breaking down food. So that's another case to really be thinking about specific formulations of nutrients for people that are on polypharmacy or taking more than one medication. And as I mentioned, when you're looking at different formulations of supplements, it's best to choose nutrients that just go together because they occur like that in nature. So, for example, having iron together with vitamin C, or having calcium together with vitamin D, because we know that vitamin D helps in the absorption of calcium. That minerals, in order to be absorbed, need to be in the presence of acid. So there are so many different things to be looking for in a formulation of a dietary supplement. So to have the confidence in the company that's doing the formulating, that they're aware of the nutritional science that impacts that final formula. So in conclusion, here are my clinical takeaways, and I hope that you leave this short segment knowing these things. First and foremost, a supplement cannot correct a bad diet. So I always say food first. Food first. We start there. We get the foundation as best we can right. Diet alone may not be enough to heal someone either. People with chronic diseases who have increased nutrient needs, or even people who have certain genetics that require more in the way of certain nutrients. Diet alone, just eating foods, may not be enough. Supplements and herbs are best used in concert with a healthy lifestyle. This is where I think of the whole person approach. It's not just having a supplement and being done. It's having the foundation of the food. It's looking at stress levels. Are we sedentary or active? And how all of those things play into the whole frontier that we have now in the 21st century of personalized nutrition. The quality of a supplement, I spoke to that. And I think that that's very important. The quality of a supplement and how it's taken will determine whether or not it's actually doing what it's supposed to do in the body. I do think that some dietary supplements are staples for a healthy regimen. I typically think of the top 3. I think of a multivitamin. I think of a probiotic in order to keep gut function in good order. And I also think of an omega-3 supplement, some kind of healthy fat supplement of some type. So if we can have staples, things that we're always seeing, keeps our body more regular and fills those nutrient gaps, I think that that's an important thing. One of my clinical premises is to always evaluate supplements. Even though I'm mentioning these dietary and supplemental staples, I do think it's important to look at changing things, reevaluating the supplements that we're taking, rotating things like herbs and different supplements, getting labs done to see if we truly need that amount of vitamin D that we're taking, or are we taking too much in the way of omega-3s? You know, there are different labs that you can have for that. And my premise too, when I look at nature, when I look at the science, smaller amounts of a more diverse blend of nutrients can work even more effectively in many cases than large amounts of just a few. So aiming for smaller amounts, broader composite, rather than large doses of just 1 or 2 things. And then finally, balancing nutrients in the correct proportion. Having trust in the company that you purchase from, that they understand the proper ratios, how vitamins and minerals work together. Thank you.